Dr. Nia Jackson pulled into the quiet cul-de-sac with a sense of relief and pride. The moving truck had just dropped off the last of her furniture, and although unpacking would be a week-long affair, she was finally home. A stunning, contemporary two-story nestled among oaks and brick houses, her new residence stood as a personal trophy, one earned through years of sacrifice, medical school, long shifts in residency, and nights she barely saw her daughter, Amara. At 35, Nia had become one of the youngest neurosurgeons at the Austin Neurocare Institute. She worked hard, she earned well, and now she lived in the kind of neighborhood she once rode through as a child, dreaming through the car window. Her daughter, Amara, leaped out of the SUV and ran to the front door, squealing, "Mommy, this is our house now." Nia laughed and grabbed a box labeled Kitchen Fragile. She paused for a second, breathing in the scent of freshly cut grass and warm summer air. She was home, but across the street, behind trimmed hedges and perfectly aligned hydrangeas, a curtain was drawn shut by a pale hand. And not 10 minutes later, a 911 call was placed by a certain neighbor named Linda Rawlings, who wasn't trying to be racist, but just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Officer Brent Havers was already annoyed when he stepped out of his patrol cruiser. It was Sunday, hot, his partner was off duty, and now some busybody had called in a suspicious black woman and her daughter trying to break into a home. The home looked far from under siege. The lawn was immaculate. There was no busted window or shady van parked nearby, just a black woman in yoga pants arranging flower pots near the porch. Still, Havers put on his game face. "Ma'am," he said, approaching with a hand hovering near his belt, "I need to see some ID." Nia looked up, startled. "Excuse me. We got a call. You fitting the description of someone who might be attempting unauthorized entry." "I live here," she said, calmly but firmly. "I just moved in yesterday. I'm not sure what you're talking about." "Mom, I'll still need to see identification, ma'am. Proof you're not trespassing." Her daughter peeked out from behind the front door, wide-eyed. "Mommy?" Nia bent down and reassured her daughter. "It's okay, baby. Go back inside." She turned to the officer. "You're standing in front of a house that I legally bought. My name is Dr. Nia Jackson. I'd like to know why you're assuming I don't belong here." Havers shrugged. "You're being uncooperative." Nia stared at him, a low simmer beginning to bubble beneath her skin. "You want proof?" she said, walking slowly to her SUV. "Ma'am, keep your hands where I can see them," he barked, resting a hand on his holster. Nia exhaled deeply and said, "I'm reaching into the glove box for my documents." She pulled out a leather folder. Inside were the closing documents, house deed, mortgage contract, and a photo she'd taken the day she was handed the keys, with Amar beside her, holding a sold sign. She handed it to him, locking eyes. He flipped through it, and his face paled slightly. "Is that your signature?" he asked, feebly. "Yes," along with the banks, the notary, and the real estate agent who sold it to me. By morning, Nia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her Twitter thread, meticulously documenting every detail from the 911 call to the officer's pale reaction, had exploded. The photos of her deed, a screenshot of her medical ID badge, and a clip from her home security camera that captured Officer Havers with his hand near his gun all went viral. Hashtags flooded social media. Hashtag Dr. Not Trespasser. Hashtag Moving Wild Black. Hashtag Hands Off Our Home. Journalists reached out. Civil rights groups called. Even a late-night show host referenced the incident in a biting monologue about racial profiling in America. But the most surprising call came from the mayor's office. "Dr. Jackson," the woman on the phone began cautiously, "Mayor Treadwell would like to personally apologize and offer a formal statement condemning what occurred. He's requested to meet with you at your convenience." Nia paused, glancing at the digital clock glowing on her kitchen island. She had barely slept. She had barely unpacked. And now the weight of a national conversation had been dropped in her lap, all because she dared to move into a zip code she had earned her way into. The mayor arrived 2 days later. He didn't come alone. Local reporters, city council members, and even representatives from the police oversight board tagged along. Nia met them at her front door, her daughter holding her hand. I want to say, first and foremost, that what happened to you is unacceptable, Mayor Treadwell said, removing his cap. And on behalf of the city, I apologize. Havers had already been placed on temporary leave pending an internal investigation. But Nia wasn't interested in a public relations apology. I'm not looking for a press photo or a ceremonial handshake, she said. I want to know what your administration plans to do to ensure this doesn't happen to the next black woman who moves into this neighborhood, or any neighborhood. The mayor looked at her, really looked at her, and nodded. We've had diversity training, he began, but clearly that's not enough. We're proposing mandatory anti-bias simulation training, a citizen-led review board, and an anonymous neighborhood watch audit to investigate racially motivated 911 calls. And Officer Havers? She asked. That's up to the police commission, he said carefully. But he's under formal review. A week later, Linda Rawlings stood awkwardly at Nia's doorstep. She had a plate of cookies and trembling hands. I wanted to apologize, Linda stammered. I thought I was doing the right thing. We've had burglaries before, and none of those burglars ever looked like me, right? Nia finished. Linda flushed. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't realize the damage I could do. I didn't think. You didn't have to think, Nia said sharply. You just had to assume. And that assumption could have got me or my daughter killed. Linda placed the cookies down and nodded, swallowing hard. I'm attending a workshop about bias. I just want to say I'm sorry. Nia didn't say thank you. She didn't offer forgiveness. She simply closed the door gently and walked back into her home, because not every apology needs to be accepted to be heard. Months passed. Amara's drawings of their house began to include a little heart on the door. Nia decorated their home with pride. Family photos, African art, graduation certificates, and a huge canvas that read, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. The house no longer felt like a battleground. It felt like a throne. Nia eventually used the incident to start an initiative, Docs and Deeds, a mentorship program aimed at helping black professionals navigate home ownership in high-income neighborhoods and protect their rights while doing so. She began giving talks at universities, police academies, and city halls, using her story not as a tale of victimhood, but as a battle cry for awareness and reform. And as for Officer Havers, he was eventually dismissed after a second incident surfaced from 2 years earlier, one that had been buried. When asked in a local interview if she felt vindicated, Nia replied simply, I wasn't seeking vengeance. I was seeking visibility, because silence is what allows injustice to repeat itself. In a society where racial profiling can weaponize assumptions against the innocent, power comes not just from status or success, but from standing firm in truth. We must hold systems accountable, challenge the biases that lurk behind fences and badges, and remember that the deed to a home means nothing if society still questions your right to be there. By noon the next day, Dr. Nia Jackson's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, it was just a few shares and supportive comments on her social media post. But then, it started snowballing. Shared by local activists, medical colleagues, and celebrities who had long been using their platforms to highlight racial injustice. The headline on a popular blog read, Neurosurgeon harassed by police outside her new home because she's black. Then came the interviews. NBC, CNN, even local station KXAN wanted her statement. But Nia wasn't interested in going viral for being another black person humiliated in their own space. She didn't want pity or headlines. She wanted accountability. Her hospital administrators, patients, and colleagues rallied behind her. But she knew public pressure alone wouldn't change things. She reached out to a civil rights attorney, and with the help of the ACLU's Texas chapter, a formal complaint was filed against Officer Brent Havers for misconduct and racial profiling. The Internal Affairs Department launched an investigation within days. Meanwhile, Amara wasn't sleeping well. At just 7 years old, she'd been exposed to something even her private school couldn't protect her from, how the world could treat her mother, and by extension, her. One evening as they sat on the couch, Amara looked up and asked, Why did that man think you didn't belong here, Mommy? Nia swallowed hard. Because some people still think that when someone looks different, they must be doing something wrong. But that's not fair, Amara said. No, baby, Nia replied, brushing her daughter's curls gently. It's not. And that's why we speak up. Officer Brant Havers was used to things blowing over. He'd been in the force for 12 years and had seen plenty of complaints resolved quietly. A slap on the wrist, a training workshop, maybe a transfer. But this was different. The department was facing heat. The video Nia posted, her calm defiance, the deed in her hand, the panic in his face, became an image that stuck. It wasn't violent, but it was damning. What unnerved him the most wasn't just the media circus. It was how much support she had. Even his own captain had called him in for a private meeting, eyes steely, jaw set. You don't get to act like it's 1950 anymore, Brent, his captain said. We're supposed to protect, not profile. If that woman had been a white doctor with a Range Rover, would you have treated her like a criminal? He didn't respond. For the first time, he couldn't. 2 weeks after the incident, the city of Austin held a community forum on racial profiling. Nia was invited to speak. Standing on stage, microphone in hand, she addressed a packed auditorium. My name is Dr. Nia Jackson. I'm a mother, a neurosurgeon, and now, apparently, a threat to public safety because I moved into the wrong zip code with the wrong skin color. The crowd was quiet, hanging on to her every word. This wasn't just about me. This is about every black person who has been questioned for existing, for jogging, for barbecuing, for birdwatching, for breathing in spaces others believe we don't deserve. She paused and added, we do belong. We've always belonged. The system is what doesn't. Applause erupted. Officer Havers was placed on administrative leave during the investigation, but by the end of the month, the department announced a suspension, pending mandatory retraining, community engagement hours, and a formal public apology. It wasn't prison. It wasn't termination. But it was a beginning. Nia stood on her porch the day the apology letter was read aloud at a press conference. She didn't attend. She had no interest in his words, not unless they came with change. Instead, she took her daughter's hand, walked down their quiet street, and smiled at a neighbor who had avoided her for weeks. The woman, a Latina mother with 2 kids, smiled back and waved. We're glad you're here. Thanks, Nia said, pausing. Me too. In time, the whispers in the neighborhood faded. People saw Nia at the grocery store, at PTA meetings, jogging early in the morning. They saw not the caricature their fear had painted, but a woman, a mother, who belonged. One evening, Amara came home with a school assignment. Draw your hero. She handed Nia a drawing, stick figures, a house, and a little girl holding the hand of a tall woman in a white coat. It's you, Amara said, because you never let them scare you. Nia hugged her tight. She hadn't just bought a house. She claimed her space. For her, for Amara, for every woman who would come after her. Subscribe for more true-to-life stories that challenge injustice and celebrate strength. Turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful tale.